Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, fans of Skytear. Welcome to another game. I am your host, the Commander, reporting in for duty. Today's game is the November clash, maybe the October clash, whatever clash we're in here, of Bearcats versus Rafa Nunes. So, before the game started, we did the coin flip. Bearcat won the flip and elected to go first. Rafa, on the other hand, then selected the outsider, which will be the Lord of Ancestors. So we'll take a look at that a little bit further down the line. As you can see, we have a couple new TTS mod updates here. We have the stack tracker over here, so we'll try to make our best effect of that. And just a couple other nice tweaks and adjustments that you'll be able to see whenever cards are played later down the game. Our objectives today: Skytear Master, win the lead control token inside a dome 3 times. Obstinacy, kill the same hero twice. And everybody's personal favorite, hunting for power. Kill the outsider, win the game. And when you declare an attack action against the outsider, you get to draw a bonus card. So, we've already started the draft underway. As we can see, Bearcat has selected Yami, Kumaya, and Miyuki, Ishitosk, Kotlik, Nantaka. And the final choice for Rafa will be perhaps a Brilvar, perhaps Terkali, but we'll see in a second. Maybe even Nelliclin, get a mage on the field as well. Bolstering the blue-green rune cards, perhaps. We'll see new heroes regardless from both players. All right, it is going to be Telekali onto the field. So we'll see how these play out for the players next. And finishing off, we see a Hokusai come out for Bearcats. So we are going to be testing another couple new features here on the stream this game today. So if things go a little bit belly side up, I will forewarn you and apologize. And thank you for your patience. We are using these two fine gentlemen kind of as a guinea pig preparing for the World Championship, which does start next Sunday. So get excited for that. We'll take a chance to see at least 2 of the new heroes in action. We did not get to see a Shadris or a Forhild on this particular draw, but I'm sure that we'll do another game some point during the week that will allow us to take a look at the other heroes. Nevertheless, there are certainly new cards that will be made available. Unfortunately, I was not able to secure these 2 gentlemen's deck lists prior to the start of the game, so I have absolutely no idea what cards they're running in which heroes. So we are going to kind of just do this one by the seat of our pants, so to speak. One of the other new features that I would like to point out, as you can see, is the addition of the ghost token here to show the lanes. So we can now see that over here on the right is lane 1, and on the left is lane 2. So you can use that to kind of keep track of which minion or which lane has priority. Obviously, not necessarily as big a deal in this game as there aren't any breach conditions on the field, but if one of the players does decide to go for a Nexus kill, perhaps, then that may come into play a little bit later down the line. So, with that being said, we saw the players go ahead mulligan. We saw a couple cards from Bearcat getting rid of the Psychic Shield and the Skytear Discharge. And now let's see what the opening play is. So with Bearcat's team, we are running 3 melee and 1 ranged. And interestingly enough, we don't have any yellow heroes for Bearcat, which means no Kumaya Smokescreen. Kumaya's ability does require her to have line of sight to a projection, to an illusion token, but not going to be able to do that without any yellow heroes. So we will see her mostly taking advantage of her attack actions, as well as the worship action, possibly even using her ultimate to imprison one of the other players' heroes in the Void Palace. We can only hope that that will be the case. Unfortunately, given the fact that this game does involve hunting for power, that seems to be less likely, given that usually the outsider doesn't survive past the round it's summoned. The next round after it's summoned when hunting for power is on the board. But we'll see what happens. So Bearcat going to start off with the Hokusai play, going to go for Control Dome early here. Interesting play to start off. Normally you might consider moving Yami first, but since Nelly has been left on the bench, does not have to worry about Hokusai getting nuked with piercing damage. So we are going to go ahead and move, and we're going to lead in the dome. Interestingly enough, still has one final action here. Not within range of worshipping, but we are going to go ahead and just dance around and skirmish. Okay. Seems good. So Rafa now gets the option to go ahead and use Tilakali to set up in lane number 2 and defend both minions from any potential assaults. There we go. We see Tilakali being pinged. She is going to go ahead and move after Rafa gives the circle, so she highlights. Going to go ahead and move, going to go ahead and worship, and then possibly either attack a minion or lead, depending on what Rafa wants to do to control the lane here. There we go. See a nice shiny token on the field there for the pillar. Those minions will now be able to be protected from any potential Yami attacks. Tilakali will be able to defend them if Tilakali so chooses. And we are going to see the lead action as opposed to an attack. Very good. And a lead from the deck nonetheless. So lead from the deck suggests, based also on the heroes that have been selected here, seems to most likely be a mixture, I would assume, of cards, wherein we have some cards that have high mana and less of a +2 modifier kill deck coming from Rafa. I would expect there's probably an Unburial Rites card in the deck, given that Nantaka is there, but we'll see what happens as the game moves on. So, Miyuki is going to go ahead and move in to the right lane there, declare an attack action, excuse me, declare an attack action against the minion. Dead minion. Oh, but no, that's the Kumaya alt, enter the Void Palace. That means that we're going to have to at least have a deck cycle before we can see someone moved in there. That is literally the one card we did not want to see on that flip. Except, I guess, unless you're Rafa, because then that means you don't get hit by it. And then Miyuki is going to go in, so it looks like right now we're setting up for a potential dome pile. So the hero, Lord of the Ancestors, not very useful for killing people, but is useful for control. And so I guess the plan from Bearcat might be minimize, the damage to my lane, win the dome, and then fix up my lane using the powers of the Lord of the Ancestors. So we do see Nantaka moving out onto the field. Now, Nantaka is a melee hero. She does deal more damage whenever she does attacks, and the heroes that she is attacking, has line of sight to enemy minions, going to summon the pillar down in order to make use of that ability. So this is going to disincentivize any invasions from Bearcat into that lane. Of course, you can simply destroy the pillar, and Nantaka reverts back to a 2+ double flip for her damage. Nantaka's attacks are not particularly ineffective for an assassin if she is not within line of sight of the pillar, and if you have no minions to back it up. So right now, with only one minion on the field, that would be a 3 + a 2 flip. So not particularly scary at the moment, but there are a lot of green-blue cards, green-blue heroes on the field, and green-blue cards are going to be capable of flipping that around very easily. Unburial Rites comes to mind next round. We could see some Dreams of Talat or the Stone Barricade card being played in order to increase the number of pillars. So we'll have to see what happens. But first, my favorite hero, Yami, is going to continue to advance into the dome. She is going to move. I assume she is going to worship, potentially against Nantaka, get some free damage off against her, although you do not have to declare until it resolves. But there comes the mark action. No response from Rafa. It is going to be against Nantaka, so you can deal 1 + the flip against Nantaka here, some light damage. And then I assume skirmish back into them. Ooh, +2 on the flip there. Very nice. So 3 damage to Nantaka brings her down to 15 hit points. And then I assume we will probably skirmish back into the dome. Or we could potentially just lead here in the lane to counter. Nope, we are going for that dome pile from Bearcat. So skirmish damage against Nantaka. Going to be 0 + the flip. Ooh, and a +3 on the Psychic Shield. Okay. Brings Nantaka down to 12. So Nantaka is a potential candidate here to get popped. A little bit further down the line. Still has 12 HP, not in any particular danger, particularly if Rafa is running either Sacrifice or Nourish. Again, I don't have access to their deck, so I'm not entirely clear what he has, but at this time here, Nantaka still perfectly fine. Bearcat only has one final hero. It is Kumaya, And Kumaya can get there with a move and a skirmish action, so not able to kill Nantaka this round, but certainly could bring her low enough that it would be painful as we head into the minion phase. All right, so Ishitosk going to go ahead and worship, summoning another pillar here. So it looks like we are setting up for potential Unburial Rites play next turn, which will allow Nantaka to do a lot of damage. Now, Nantaka has already led in this particular lane, so not any reason for Ishitosk to do so as well. Perhaps we'll see a skirmish action into the dome, or maybe just a skirmish action to reposition. I don't really see any reason to... Ishitosk led with a 1 and got to place another pillar. What just happened there? I think someone played the card in the wrong spot. So it looks like we played Stone Barricade or Dreams of Talit. That's the only way that that conclusion can happen there. Obviously, once the activation ends, then in that case, no further problems. So it looks like we are having a bit of lag on the stream here at the moment, although I can't be certain if that is okay. There we go. It looks like everything is all right now. I wonder if that was a direct result of placing the card on the field. All right. So unfortunately, that might become a problem. That is tragic and unfortunate. Oh well, such is life. All right, so Bearcat is going to go with the final activation here. Kumaya does enter onto the field, into the dome as well, so we are doing a dome pile here. I assume we're not going to go after Ishitosk here with Kumaya, as Ishitosk has 2 armor. We are going to go ahead and worship, so the worship action has to be against either Ishitosk or Kotlik. It does not require line of sight, although you can't deal any damage based on the positioning here with Kumaya, so not sure if you want to do this. Okay, we could just be stacking on conditions. So Ishitosk is now, although that's, to be fair, that does enable it so that the Miyuki and the Hokusai effects take place. So, okay, so not necessarily the worst plan in the world here. So Ishitosk now has -1 armor and also does 1 damage on attacks. Though, again, the only kind of attacks that I foresee Rafa doing would be versus minions. And so, not really too concerned about that. So Bearcat is now going to go ahead and skirmish. Looks like we have a response from... Or we're just going to go ahead and... Okay, no. We're just going to go ahead and move around there and end our turn. And by Ara, I, of course, mean Bearcat is. So, the next activation here will be Kotlik. He is the last one to move onto the field. At this point, going into the dome is not very smart, so Kotlik is going to go ahead, move into the next lane here, perhaps do a worship action, summon those pillars. Another option, too, is we might be setting up to see some Kotlik destruction next turn as well, in addition to potentially seeing the Unburial Rites play. Kotlik does gain skirmish damage for removed pillars, so we might see that as well. And the removed pillars do not need to be from his worship action specifically, they just simply need to be removed from the battlefield by any means, including by your opponent destroying them. So we may see the Unburial Rites play, Kotlik would worship just to activate the worship action, and then proceed to skirmish smash somebody. Possibly even the outsider. We could see Rafa go for an early kill. And we finally, and there's the Dreams of Talit card. All right, so now we're going to see if playing that card on screen was what caused the lag, or if that was just an unfortunate hiccup. So Dreams of Talit is one of the new cards. You may remove a friendly pillar on the battlefield. Place a friendly pillar on a target hex that does not contain a token or miniature. So unlike Stone Barricade, this particular card is not a... what's the word I want? It is not a blocking element. There we go. Sorry about that. However, you also don't have to place it adjacent to you. So, we're going to go ahead and resolve the lanes there. So, lane number 1, heavily in favor of Rafa there, as we can see. Dead minions all around. For Bearcat, Rafa gets to spawn in 2 new minions. So, it's currently only 2 to 3 minions in favor of Rafa, but there are 3 pillars there. looking very likely to transform into minions or become part of Kotlik's destruction, or both. Over in lane number 2, I think we're going to see a similar situation there. Both minions are going to die. Oh, we see a Guerrilla Tactics and another Dream of Talent. Interesting. So hopefully we'll get to see how those cards work as well. We do see, now in this lane, we have Fortitude. So if this were a setup for an invasion play, Bearcat would be in a bit of a bad situation. However, since there is no invasion play, Bearcat now needs to play around his particular victory, which in this case involves the Skytear Dome. Skytear Dome. I can't believe I'm still calling it tier. I apologize. So, we now have control of the Lord of the Ancestors. Let's take a look and see what Lord of the Ancestors does. Place the Lord of the Ancestors adjacent to a friendly minion. And then, as I mentioned, we have a number of abilities that are useful for helping to control, as opposed to kill. Spawn a friendly minion with Invoke the Ancestors, move the target control token 1 hex, or Overwhelm. Choose a friendly minion on the battlefield and place it adjacent to another friendly minion on the battlefield. So we'll see exactly what Bearcat opts to do. My guess is he might just do a little bit of fiddling with it and then move the outsider into a position where he can just zerg it down. Interesting to note here in this particular situation, all 4 of Bearcat's heroes are in the dome, which means that a Rampant Hatred would grant a +4 to Hokusai if he were to use it. So I think we will see if Bearcat has the Rampant Hatred by whether or not Hokusai activates first in round number 2. But before that, we're going to go ahead and see what exactly it is that the Lord of the Ancestors opts to do. So spawned in lane number 2 over there. Will he kill off minions or will he kill a pillar is the interesting question here. There are 6 pillars on the field right now for Rafa. There is almost certainly an Unburial Rites card in his hand. And that's going to cause a lot of pain for someone. All right, Bearcat is going to go ahead and attack. We are attacking the minion. All right, minion dead. Second action now. We're going to go ahead and move. I assume we're going to move it. Oh, yeah. There is going to be some sort of a Rampant Hatred. So I wonder, does Rafa have a response with Ishitosk? Interestingly enough, positioning him there does make it so that Ishitosk would be able to nourish. So in this situation, Bearcat is going for the wall of sorts here. We're going to try to wall off Rafa's heroes. And the question becomes, who plays the game of chicken here? Because with an Unburial Rites card in hand, Kotlik, or just with a general play here from Kotlik, Lord of the Ancestors could take heavy damage, but Bearcats also might just be able to Rampant Hatred it down with a worship action and maybe some help from one of the other heroes that can cast a Nightmares Incarnate. Something of that nature. All right, before that, we have to discard down, as Bearcat did have 5 cards, so he's going to throw away the Psychic Shield. Psychic Shield not very good in hand, very good in the deck, so unfortunate that he's not able to flip that +3. Would have been very, very useful. And so, with that being said, I think everything's set. Oh, we're going to adjust the Lord of the Ancestors real fast, move him a little bit closer to the party here, making it so that everyone is adjacent and everyone can deal massive, massive damage to Kotlik. Because the Lord of the Ancestors, I think, is in fact Kotlik after he's been corrupted by the Skytear energy, if I remember the lore correctly. If I don't, I'm sure someone's about to yell at me. With that being said, I think we are all cleared up with round number 1. And as soon as Bearcat grabs the active player token, then in that case, we will be off to round number 2. So I don't want to go ahead and move the tracker ahead of the game, just in case there's something that the players are still resolving. And there we go. So we'll go ahead and advance the token to round number 2. Of course, again, as a reminder, the Outsider does have 19 hit points, 1 armor. So there will be the need for Hokusai to worship on him, or at least for him to be marked in order to reduce the armor to make it a little bit easier to kill him, if that's the plan. Let's see what Bearcat's... so Bearcat is actually activating Miyuki first. So it might be the case that he's trying to bait out possible damage. or he knows that he doesn't have enough to 100 to 0 the Lord of the Ancestors, and so needs to potentially soften him up a little bit with maybe using the worship action and then perhaps a mark, a regular attack once marked, in order to weaken it, but not make it so much that Kotlik can't come in here from Rafa and just rampage all over the fortress and destroy the outsider by himself. In addition to that, he could also be setting it up such that Nantaka ends up getting crippled. Although in this situation, this looks to be a case where if Bearcat doesn't destroy the outsider in turn 2, or possibly, I mean, yeah, okay, so Miyuki is going to play Decree of Kurumo. So let's go ahead and bring that up. That is one of our new cards here. Decree of Kurumo applies a mark to a target hero. So in this situation, we have elected to mark the outsider. Remembering, of course, that the outsider does count as a hero, and so now the outsider does suffer from -1 armor, and also does 1 damage on his attacks. Miyuki repositioning herself, and I actually like this, and now this makes a little bit more sense. Miyuki now makes it so that Kotlik would have to have a fast play in order to get to the Lord of the Ancestors. Obviously, with turn 2 and Rafa being the second player, Rampant Hatred is not an option. So with this positioning, Rafa will not be able to get to Kotlik, or to the Lord of the Ancestors with Kotlik. Kotlik will not be able to attack Corrupted Kotlik. This is getting to be an existential crisis at this point, so we're not going to go down that train of thought any further. But Rafa will not be able to get to the Lord of the Ancestors with his heavy hitter without a slide card, I guess would work. All right, so Bearcat is going to go ahead and start damaging the Lord of the Ancestors there. We saw the skirmish action previously, and now the attack action as well, adding in quite a bit of damage there. 2 damage from the skirmish plus another 5 from the attack brings him to 12, which means that if there's a Rampant Hatred in Bearcat's hand, the Lord of the Ancestors is in trouble, and so is Rafa. So at this point, Rafa needs to do something about Hokusai, as Hokusai is probably the one person that would be able to eliminate the Lord of the Ancestor at this point. We need to see, I'm trying to think of what cards Rafa might have that would enable him to do enough damage to eliminate him. Well, we'll see what Rafa comes up with in this round. Show me magic. I think at this point, if Rafa has Nourishes, I think that placing the Nourish might be the best option for him to heal the Lord of the Ancestor with Ishitosk, because until you can get your heroes into position, actually, I don't even know. It doesn't even matter at this point. Like, Kotlik is your main damage dealer, and Kotlik isn't going to get anywhere near there. Nantaka isn't useful in the dome because it requires minions to have line of sight to the hero that they're attacking. So unless... a slide, perhaps? Trying to think of what Rafa can do, because right now this is looking very much like Bearcat has set up for the kill here. Miyuki did lead in the dome as her final action. I forgot to mention that, but I don't think that matters. I'm pretty certain that this game is going to end before we get to the end of round number 2 here. The positioning from Bearcat is just very, very good. 3 of Rafa's heroes are all melees, and Nantaka can't deal a whole lot of damage to heroes inside of the dome, not where she specializes. Tilakali is a specialist, so she's 2+ a flip, and Kotlik has been blocked off. Ishitosk, also a tank, doesn't do a whole lot of damage either. So Rafa's win conditions obviously would be to blow up the towers and potentially just siege down the Nexus, but he just doesn't have enough time. In this situation, all right, well, let's see what happens. Ishitosk is going to go ahead and activate. I guess we're going to get Ishitosk out of the way. Still doesn't seem to make too much of a difference here. Unless he moves. No, there's no pillar down. Unless you summoned a pillar with Dreams of Talit. Moved. This would require a lot of finagling in order to potentially get around the Great Wall of Bearcat. For those of you who like to set up walls in your games of heroes, take note. This is a good wall. We've seen other walls that we won't comment on who they are because Kirito's not here to defend himself. But we've seen some cases where the wall put up by the player actually has a negative effect on their gameplay. This is a good wall here. This wall is forcing Rafa to do stuff that he probably doesn't want to do. All right, so we do see the move action. We see the worship action, bringing down a 7th pillar here, it looks like. This is an interesting play here. He's not trying to Ishitaxi this, is he? Because you can't do that. The hero has to be friendly in order to pull them along with you. So what is the option here? Are we just summoning another pillar, perhaps, to make it so that Kotlik does even more damage? Well, we're bringing down the pillar. There are now 7 pillars on the field. If Kotlik was able to destroy those pillars, that would be +7 to the skirmish damage, which would be absurd. Even better if he was able to play a Rampant Hatred. Obviously, it's turn 2, as we mentioned. Rafa does not have the ability to play Rampant Hatred at this point, which is a darn shame, because that would have been a whole lot of skirmish damage and a whole lot of dead hero, but such is life. So, let's see then what his final action will be. Rafa is going to go and attack? He's attacking the Lord of the Ancestor? I feel like this is not the right play here, sir, because... Well, okay. 1 damage. I guess you do get to draw a card. That's fair. By the rule of the hunting for power, whenever you declare the attack against the outsider, you do get to draw 1 card. Of course, Ishitosk will do a guaranteed 1 damage. Ishitosk was marked during the round. Miyuki, being within 3 of Miyuki while you are marked, means your attack is reduced by 1, and you cannot flip. All right, meanwhile, Hokusai is going to go. So, starting off with the attack action here, this is going to be 2 plus the flip against the Lord of the Ancestors. 2 damage there. All right, 4 damage brings down to 7. If Rampant Hatred comes out, this is a guaranteed game over. Do we see the Flux be popped? Of course, also potentially a Nightmares Incarnate coming from one of the ladies there. All 3 of them capable of casting yellow cards. Could result in enough damage with a worship action from Hokusai, if that flips high enough. Bearcat not turning over the Flux card, though, does mean, I think, that he doesn't have... Okay, so we have a worship action going down, so the worship action will now deal 1 plus a flip to both the Lord of the Ancestors and to Hokusai. We'll see if there's a response there from Rafa first. Does not look like it. Going to go ahead and do some damage there. +1 there, so 2 more damage brings Lord of the Ancestors down to 5 HP. In this situation, Rampant Hatred would guarantee that you could kill. And there it comes. Pop the Flux. Next card costs 1 less mana, and $50,000 says it's the Rampant Hatred. So, Rampant Hatred, arguably the most devastating offensive card in the game here. Allows you to, if I can find it, there we go. Gain +1 skirmish damage for every friendly hero in the line of sight, and then the caster takes a bonus skirmish action. So, unless Rafa has something in order to stop this, after the skirmish resolves, then, or I'm sorry, has something to play before Rampant Hatred resolves, like a Nourish, for example, or a Sacrifice, I guess would work as well, to heal the Lord of the Ancestors, then the Lord of the Ancestors likely just dies. As there are 4 heroes in the line of sight of Hokusai, nope, there it is. 4 damage plus 2, dead Lord of the Ancestors, victory by hunting for power. So let's go ahead and talk with the players. Good game to Bearcats.
Because I don't want to put you in range. I was like, I want him at 5 or 6. Like that's exactly where I want his health to be.
Yeah, and I couldn't kill it because it was more than 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, hunting for power is hard to deal with.
Good game, though, gentlemen. That was fun to watch.
All right, good game, man.
Yeah, great game.
Hunting for power strikes again.
Yes, always hunting for power.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out the best way to sequence the damage that I was gonna do, because I was like, man, I know Rampant Hatred's gonna be able to do most likely 6 damage.
Sure.
So I want to get him perfect. I didn't want to do the Rampant Hatred and then follow it up with a skirmish, because I was like, he's probably got something to steal the kill.
Right.
I didn't know exactly what it was gonna be.
I assume
Shield Slam, I guess, was the obvious option.
Yeah, with Ishitosk being right there, a Shield Slam would potentially ruin your day.
Yeah, and he had 2 of them.
Oh, geez.
I don't think I would have hit anything.
Yeah, I had 2 of them, and I wasn't expecting something from you to respond, like any reaction or something, when I use the shield slams. I don't know if you have anything.
I mean, like the only thing I had that was a reaction was that, and that wouldn't have done anything. Like Release the Spirit wouldn't have helped.
Against a Shield Slam, yeah.
Yeah. So sadly, this was a +1.
Well,
and
you know
I was
what?
expecting a +2.
I did have a reaction.
Oh.
I could have played Decree of Karumo, which would have made Ixatosk have -1 armor, and then your shield would have won.
Yeah, that would have actually been really cool to watch.
So I would have been able to stop it.
Yep.
Actually, I was marked already. I never had the chance. Actually.
Well,
you
actually should have taken. You should have cleared. You should have.
Oh
cleared
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Because you moved Ishitosk, so it would have cleared. Yeah. So you had to reapply it.
But I would have been able to clear at least 1 damage off of you. Actually, that would have made Shield Slam only do 2 damage total, both of them.
Nice.
Yeah, it was going to be a total of 2, so no chances for me.
Yeah.
At all.
I was assuming that you were trying to set up some sort of like giant Nantaka attack.
That's what it looked like. That or
Yep. I was thinking. Like, if he summons the outsider here, I'm gonna have a huge Kotlik skirmishing, or if he summons it here, I'm gonna have a huge Nantaka with Umboria Rights. But
there it is. I was thinking you had the Umboria Rights in hand.
Yes, I did. I do have, and
yeah, I was just like, I'm gonna make this nice little wall blocking Kotlik from getting in there.
I saw that. That
Kotlik
was actually really well done there.
No chance of doing that massive 10 damage skirmish that was probably going to be coming my way.
Yeah, I had 2 mistakes in this game. First one was to have the pilar here instead of there, because if it was here, I could have done the tax and put it Kotlik like here in position, not marked, and also in position to use the shield slams.
Yeah.
So these would give me some chances with Kotlik, but you would kill the ancestors first. But the best moves for me would be to tie the middle and wait till the 3rd round, because I had some interesting stuff to use on 3rd round.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was not looking forward to the third round, so I'm like, there's no way I'm letting this game get that way. Like I know with the kind of deck that you're running, you're probably going to be running like some strong movement cards, and I
Yeah,
have none of those.
I had lots of tools to prevent the death, but I thought you wouldn't have enough firepower to kill it
Yeah.
on turn 2. But
My other
Unstoppable.
option was
you have-
unstoppable. So
Yeah.
that was my other thought, was play unstoppable, but the 4 damage rampage hatred is just too good.
Yeah, it really was.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you for the game,
Yeah,
and
good game.
it was a good game, right?
Yeah. All right. Have a good night, man.
You too. Thank you. Thank you,
All right.
RG.
Of course.
Thank you,
my
RG.
pleasure. Anytime. It was. Thank you for letting me come and join. It was a lot of fun to watch.
All right.
Thank you
Have a
very
good night,
much.
guys.
All right. Thank you very
You
much.
too. Bye
everyone.
bye.
On behalf of Rafa, Bearcat, and myself, thank you very much for joining us. And stay tuned. The World Championship is right around the corner. Have a good evening.